All right, folks, welcome back to the Gaelic Gridiron preview show. I am Kevin. This is Stephen Twist Kearns. We are here ready to preview week 15. Steve, how are we feeling?
Good. It's some exciting scenarios ready for some week 15. I'll jump into them before we get into the games. But yeah, it's week 15 already. Like, the season's practically over. Insane. And then we had the big news of Berlin hosting a game in 2025 as well. So it's
Yeah,
all go on the NFL side.
yeah. So we have, obviously, like I said, Berlin is happening again next year. So they went to Munich this year, back to Berlin again next year, which is going to be exciting for the German fans. And I'm sure we'll have a slew of international games to be announced over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, like you said, jumping into week 15, there's a lot of kind of playoff kind of
Scenarios, yeah.
scenarios that are going to roll out here. So what are we looking at?
So on the AFC side, the Texans, if they win on Sunday and Indianapolis lose, the Texans win the division, which is phenomenal for Texans fans. The Steelers will clinch a playoff spot if they beat or tie with the Eagles, or if Miami lose or tie, and if Indy lose as well. They'll get the playoffs automatically. The NFC side, we've got three teams who have scenarios. The Packers will clinch the playoffs with a win and Atlanta loss or tie, and San Francisco and Los Angeles Rams have to tie as well. So that's a bit unlikely for Green Bay to happen. So your Vikings will clinch the playoffs with a win and with a Miami win or tie, Los Angeles loss or tie, and a Seattle loss or tie. So fairly easy for your Vikings to get in this week. And then finally, the Eagles will clinch the division if they beat the Steelers and the Commanders lose or tie, or if they tie with the Steelers and the Commanders lose, they win the division. So a lot of scenarios to play out this week.
Yeah, definitely a lot to play for. And so obviously we threw up on the Instagram over yesterday, just kind of asking some of the fans what games they want us to preview, and we had a couple of responses. And I want to jump in first to kind of that Pennsylvania rivalry, the Pittsburgh Steelers, your Pittsburgh Steelers and the Eagles. And this is going to be a big game. Like, obviously, both teams playing really, really well. Now, obviously, a bit of controversy, if you want to call it controversy, with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts this week. But I don't see what Nick Sirianni's job is at this point. Like, I don't know what he's doing there, if anything at all.
I mean, like, he shaves his head on the Eagles to start winning, so there's that, I guess. Saquon Barkley is doing pretty much all the work for the Eagles. I mean, as Sirianni literally just got to say, hand the ball off to Saquon 3 times. That's all his game plan. He's going to be facing a stout run defense from the Steelers. That's our bread and butter. And this isn't the Steagles of the 45 where the two teams are blended together because of World War II. This is back to the rivalry. It happens every 3 or 4 years. They face each other in the preseason or the regular season. It's going to be in Lincoln Financial Field against a hostile Philadelphia crowd. Philly fans, I love your hostility. I love it. Throwing batteries at Santa, love it. Just love the attitude, the hatred. But it's going to be a tough going. Like, even with you said it, the animosity apparently between Hurts and Brown. Brown is still AJ Brown is still a top target. Like, even with Joey Porter covering him, Joey Porter was flagged 6 times the week before the Browns. He was flagged a couple of times against the Browns. I know he wasn't flagged against the Browns, so I'm hoping he has tidied his game up. And with Russell Wilson under center, the Steelers are actually looking good. I'm still waiting for something to happen, something to go wrong, something to fall apart. But we eliminated the Browns in the playoffs on Sunday, so that's always good. So yeah, look for this is going to be a hard-fought game. If the Steelers can contain Saquon, it's going to be a lot closer than people think. But I think the Eagles are favored by a touchdown or more, purely on the back of Saquon. I obviously want the Steelers to win because it gives us a chance at the playoff berth. At week 15, we can start planning further afield then. But it's going to be, in my mind, too close to call. Obviously, as a homer, I'm going to go, yeah, we're going to win. It's the Steelers, we're going to win. But, as, a neutral party, if I'm going to be, not going to be neutral, but if I was looking at it from the outside looking in, yeah, I think it's too close to call.
I think there is just a lot of implication there, like you said. Like even if the Steelers do win this weekend, what way do you play out the rest like down the stretch here? Because you still want to be that you want to be in contention for the number one seed. Now it's looking more and more likely as the weeks go on that it's gonna be the Chiefs if they keep coming up with these doinks and all of this other stuff. So definitely an interesting one down the stretch for the Steelers. Now myself, I think just by the look of the Eagles, they've the second longest win streak in the league at this point this year, behind only the Lions, and they haven't lost a game this year with AJ Brown on the field. Now he missed obviously three games there earlier in the season, so there's definitely a lot of kind of things you could look at there that could be game deciders. But I really think it will come down to the run defense. Like you said, I think this will be the first time that the Eagles and Saquon will have faced a top run defense in the league, and I think that might be what it comes down to. So if Saquon can get out early and start kind of chewing up the ground, I think he might be in a little bit of trouble, because I just don't see Russell Wilson having the arm to kind of get over the Eagles secondary. I just don't see it. But I've also seen Russell absolutely ball out. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one. But I do think it will come down to the run game.
And especially with George Pickens is probably going to miss this week as well.
Has that been confirmed, or?
Tomlin keeps saying it's best to err on the side of caution. We don't want it to be worse, and I can understand the mentality. If you get to the playoffs, you want Pickens healthy and ready to go for a playoff run. You don't want to throw him in now and then lose him for the playoffs, where like the games are literally one and done. So I'd say he's probably going to be game time decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pickens misses a second consecutive week.
I don't think it's a bad thing for him to miss out on the Eagles either, just with his personality. So definitely going to be an interesting one there in Lincoln Financial. Going on to our next game, we had another input from a fan. We had the Lions and the Bills they wanted to hear about, and this again, I think I said it last week with the Lions being one of my kind of favorite games of the week. This one comes up again with them playing Josh Allen after having one of the game performances of all time, really, with 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 throwing touchdowns. Like, absolutely mad what he's done. And for them to come out and lose that game after a performance like that, you can only imagine what sort of mindset that they're going to have going into playing the Lions now.
Absolutely. This, I know I've said the Super Bowl in my mind will be the Chiefs and the Packers, but outside of that, this feels like a Super Bowl preview between the Lions and the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen has been playing out of his mind. Like, he's, my personal opinion, he's front runner for MVP. You look at what he's done so far this season. He's got 60 rushing touchdowns so far this season. No, not to see in his career. And he's got an insane. He's got crazy figures for passing as well. And someone compared it to where O.J. Simpson was in his career, and he's got one more touchdown than O.J. Simpson has in his career at this point, and O.J. is a Hall of Famer. So we don't talk about outside of football, but that's insane to think a quarterback is on par to match up with a legendary Bills player, Juice. But yeah, this is going to be a huge slugfest. I mean, it's in Detroit, so weather's not going to be an issue. So, Josh Allen's not going to have his snow to help him. He loves the snow. He has to use the bill. But if he plays and he balls out the way he has been the past couple of weeks, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a lot closer than the things. And I think the Bills are going to squeak it. They're actually going to give the Lions their second loss of the season. Now, the problem with that is I think that will really piss the Lions off. And, they'll go absolutely bananas down the stretch. But yeah, I think the Bills will squeak this one out, and this could potentially be a Super Bowl preview. And I wouldn't be surprised if the combined points are 80 plus.
I'm definitely in agreement with you there that it definitely is it's a Super Bowl preview, or what could be, But I also have to think, at what point does Josh Allen's back give out? He can't do it all on his own, and I'm not saying that he doesn't have the weapons. He obviously has Amari Cooper. He has other weapons there. Like James Cook has been really having a breakout year for himself. So it's not completely come down to Josh Allen on his own. But last Sunday, it absolutely did. It was the Josh Allen show, and that doesn't win you Super Bowls. And unfortunately, I think, with how good he is, he still needs that weapon. He needs that person he needs that JJ. He needs AJ Brown. He needs somebody like that to take the pressure off him. And so this game, I think, is going to be really interesting in a couple of different ways, because I see the Lions obviously now with their slew of injuries, like we've been saying, and it's not getting any better. And for a team that goes for it so consistently on fourth down, there's gonna be a crack in the system somewhere. And I mean, look, I hope it happens, because look, and at the same time, I want to win. As a Vikings fan, I want us to go and win the NFC North. So I'm on board with you here. I think that there is going to be a crack for the Lions, and if it's going to be any week, it will be this one, purely off the back of what happened to Josh Allen last week. I don't think he will let himself go down by that much again. Now, obviously, a lot of it's not down to him; it's down to his defense. But I think just as a leader on that team, he's not going to allow that to happen. So I don't know what the spread is. I should have checked it before we jumped on here, but I can't imagine it's going to be more than 3 or 4 points,
Yeah,
really, in
more
that
than
one.
that, it's going to be like if the spread is more than like a field goal, whoever's putting
Yeah,
those odds
I'd
on
be
it.
very
Right.
surprised. So uh, I leaned with the Packers last week. I think we both did, and we both were kind of a little off. And again, only for that fourth down, and if it was college rules and Jared Goff goes down after and hits his knee on the ground, that ball is dead.
Yeah,
So he definitely got lucky, and I think that at some point Dan Campbell is gonna have to rein it in. He just is gonna have to. He's gonna have to bite his tongue and say, all right, we're going to take the 3 points. We're going to do the smart thing. But I think until it gets to the point where it happens and it really bites them in the ass, I think he's going to continue to do it. And I think this weekend will be the one, or this weekend will be the game where it does bite them. So I'm going to give
yeah,
it to the Bills. I think it'll be, if anything, it'll be 3 to 7 points. I think will be the win for them. So yeah,
yeah. I think it's definitely Dan Campbell is only going to learn by losing. I think you're right there. I'm sorry. This season just feels like the Josh Allen redemption arc. He's going to go out. He's going to ball out. He's going to finally beat Mahomes in the playoffs. He's going to get that MVP. Sorry, Lamar. You're not doing as good as Josh Allen's doing this year. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a close game. It's probably like just looking at the other games this week. There are a couple of other good games on this week. Like we already previewed Steelers Eagles is going to be good. But this feels like game of the week again, and it's the Lions. And I think you're right. The Lions are starting to show some weakness, but it's all going to be Josh Allen. It's going to be on Josh Allen's back. Amari Cooper has to get open. James Cook has the ball out, but the Bills' defense needs to step up.
they do. They absolutely do. So going into kind of the next requested game that we had on Instagram there, and again, thanks to everybody who did reach out and let us know their suggestions. But this one I thought was interesting. The Packers going to the Seahawks. Now, this one I think, like you said, has a bit of implications for both teams. I think it's more important for the Seahawks than it is the Packers. Not that it's unimportant for the Packers by any means, but the way Geno Smith has been playing. And I think just after the loss and I think that there was a lot of kind of heatedness on the sideline in Ford Field last weekend with Matt LaFleur and some fans, and they just seem a little shook. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know what's giving me that impression, but I think just the Packers don't have that killer instinct. I think they're still a year away from having it. I think they're a year away from being the full complement of a football team. Like obviously last year they came out really big in the end of the season. Obviously went down the stretch into the playoffs and had a really amazing run. But I can't see, with the way DK Metcalf is playing, the way Gino is throwing the ball, that I think that it's going to be another straight loss for the Packers here going out to Lumen Field.
It's going to be a tough game for the Packers. I mean, it's always bad when you see your head coach getting into it with a fan, from you're like a division rival. I mean, it's a fan. Like, get into it with players, get into it with a coach, but a fan holding the American flag. No, no matter what he says to you, like you're a head coach, act like it. Yeah, like Gino has been he goes through like waves and troughs of balling it out and being absolutely mediocre, but like he's got the monster Metcalf like that. Metcalf should not be the size and ability. He's almost like Megatron in Detroit Lions of old. Like he's that type of receiver, big bodied. Literally takes 2, possibly 3 cornerbacks to tackle him down if he gets going fast, and if you
But
hit him
it's as
high,
quick as lightning as well.
unbelievably fast. Like for a guy that size. Packers, they are struggling a bit. I still think they'll make the playoffs, and I think that's when they'll actually wake up. I think they're a sleeping giant, but the danger for them now is to actually get into the playoffs, whether it's wild card or they're not going to get to. I'm sorry, no one's going to get to the division other than the Lions. Like it's going to be like unless the Lions fall off for the rest of the season. And,
I mean, look, if it goes this way, if the Bills do happen to go into Ford Field, beat them, and then the Vikings go and beat the Bears on Monday night, then we're equal records at that
I
point.
forget you guys are so close. Yeah, I keep forgetting.
And then we have another game. We do have another game with the Lions end of season. So there's lots to play for there in the NFC North. But again, back to this game, it's definitely going to be an interesting one.
It is going to be an interesting one. I think you're right. I think the Seahawks are going to go out and they're going to beat the Packers. Now, I'm not too sure how badly. I'm probably going to give it to the Seahawks by 10 points, if anything. Purely because I don't know what it is about Jordan Love. He just has these, like I said, Gino goes through waves and troughs. Like, Jordan Love goes through his peaks and valleys. Like, he goes much higher and much lower, like, on the chart. When he's good, he's really good. But when he's bad, it stinks the joint up. And I think this is one of those situations. You're going into Seattle. The weather shouldn't be a problem. He plays in Lambeau. But the crowd is the difference. Like, Lambeau Field is loud, yeah, but you're going up against the 12th man. There's a 12th man for a reason. But I think, yeah, this one is going to see the Packers are going to dip and they're going to lose this game. I still think they somehow manage to squeak in the playoffs. That's really be dangerous. But this week it's a close one. But yeah, Seahawks are coming out on top.
Yeah, well, look, that one's going to be an interesting one for sure. So then another kind of Monday night game. There's 2 Monday night games this week. So we have, like I said, Vikings, Bears. But another request we had on Instagram there was kind of an interesting one with the Raiders. Now, I'm going to talk about this one more so in the sense of Kirk Cousins and the Falcons, because this one is such an important game for them in many different senses. There's a lot of divisional kind of implications here, depending on how the Buccaneers play against the Chargers. Now, they do have to go to LA to play that game, so that's going to be interesting. But this is absolutely make or break for Kirk Cousins. There's no other way to say it. If he doesn't win this game against a bottom tier team that seems to be absolutely throwing the season, they've Desmond Ridder starting now for them. If Kirk Cousins can't win this game and get the monkey off his back, you have to bring in Michael Penix Jr. There's just no way around it.
I agree. I'm surprised Penix Jr. isn't starting this week after the disaster that Kirk put on show against your Vikings. Like it was like he thought he was on the Vikings. He just kept throwing the ball to the purple shirts. Kirk's still helping the Vikings win even to this day. But yeah, I mean, like in a division like the South, like look at you got the Saints are playing the Commanders, the Panthers. They're playing the Cowboys, which, yeah, depending on what mood Cooper Rush is in, like, he could win around. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield is tough as nails. Like, he could go.
Justin Herbert also, I think that's a tough as nails matchup right there. Is the two of them, Justin Herbert and Baker Mayfield, probably the 2 of the toughest quarterbacks in the league.
And 2 would have huge playoff intentions because the Chargers are trying to stay in the hunt, and so are the Buccaneers. But like, if you're the Falcons, you go into the Raiders, who, as you said, are pretty much dead on their feet at this point. They're throwing Desmond Ridder out there.
They're 2-11 right now.
Yeah, like that's it. Like they're in contention for a top 5 draft pick. They're throwing Ridder out there purely because Aidan O'Connell's out with a season-ending injury, unfortunately. So trying to see what they have there by necessity. I don't think they would have put Ridder in regardless. They would have rolled the rest of this year with Aidan O'Connell if he hadn't been injured. But try him out. If he goes out and wins, Kirk Cousins benched. Like, Penix Jr. starting the last 2 games of the season. as I said before, don't put down the Raiders. Yeah, they're 2-11, but they're scrappy as hell. And even if you've got a quarterback like Desmond Ridder, who's only had a handful of snaps this year, he still has Brock Bowers.
Right.
Brock Bowers is over there somewhere. Like, just throw the ball. He's going to take that and he's going to rumble down the field. And the Falcons' defense didn't look right against the Vikings. So,
no,
you know,
but yeah, I also have to look at, I have to kind of look at Max Crosby and kind of how he plays the game. I can't imagine he's the type of player that's going to go onto a field and not give 100%. And I think there's probably a lot of defensive players in the NFL who are very similar to that way, where they're just not going to go onto a field and not want to take down a quarterback or not want to ball out. I think it's more often you see kind of the wide receivers, the running backs kind of throw tantrums. And now Micah Parsons threw an absolute tantrum at the end of that game. And I understandable, to say the least. It is understandable when you've got a punt coming towards you to potentially drive down and win the game. And for that to happen, for that fumble to happen, I can understand it, but hold your tongue. Come on, like you're getting paid millions of dollars to go out there and do what you do. I just don't think it's a good look. But yeah, I think that this game is definitely going to be more implications, obviously, on Kirk and the Falcons than it is for the Raiders. The only thing I think that they're playing for at this point, or not playing for, is that number one draft seed or draft pick. So
yeah,
that's a big game this week. Now I think outside of those games, there's a big one tomorrow night in the 49ers and the Rams. The Rams going to Levi Stadium. This one's interesting in a sense that, again, Puka Nacua had an absolutely massive game last week, and Matt Stafford is they kind of seem to be back to where they were back in 2020, was it 22, 23 when they won the Super Bowl? Like, they're getting back to that sort of form, and if they can continue to do that down the stretch, they're going to be kind of a sneaky team that you don't want to see in the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, like the Rams are getting hot at the right time. Like, Stafford throwing absolute dimes across his body to the other side of the field on the sideline, like on the hash, like literally dropping it on the hash mark. Like, those type of throws shouldn't be possible. Like, you wouldn't see Tom Brady making a throw like that. You wouldn't have seen Big Ben back in his heyday, Drew Brees, like the quarterbacks of old, like Peyton Manning wouldn't make throws like that. Stafford is just a machine when it comes to these, like, dropping them into.
He's a one of a kind in that sense, for sure.
But I think you're right. Like, the 49ers went in and they battered the Bears last week, but it's the Bears,
Head coachless Bears.
Head coachless Bears, offensive lineless Bears. You text me at one point, like, the 49ers had 100+ yards and the Bears had 2. Like,
it was 310.
Oh, 300, yeah, yeah.
310 yards of total offense to the Bears 3 yards.
Yeah, it's like something insane like that. Like, I was literally about to go to sleep, and I was like seeing that. I was like, I'm not turning that game on because I'll stay up all night. But I don't think the 49ers are going to have it easy this week on Thursday night, tomorrow night against the Rams. I think you're right. I think everyone in the NFC is jostling for position, and the Rams are literally sneaking up on everybody. Like, everyone's discounted them already. I've discounted them a couple of times this season so far, and I'll hold my hands up and say I was wrong more than once picking against the Rams. So I think this one is one, if you're a 49er faithful, part of the Irish 49er faithful, absolutely, if you've no work on Friday, stay up and watch it. But watch out, because Matt Stafford is coming down and he is slinging.
Yeah, no, I agree with you fully. And I'm gonna give this one to the Rams, because I just think they want it more at this point. I don't know what the 49ers are like. I mean, they still have an outside chance, but if they don't win their division, which it's looking very unlikely that they will at this point, I just don't see them getting that wild card. Now, at the same time, if they do get a wild card, are they a team to worry about? Are they somebody that, if they come up against the Lions in a first round, like, could that be a trap game for the Lions in a way?
I mean, if the Lions are going to get trapped by anybody, possibly the 49ers, purely because they have the experience of going to the Super Bowl, and they've gone all the way, they know what it feels like. The Lions have never been there, so they're obviously playing for that feeling. But I mean, if any team in the NFC is the trap team, it's the Rams. Give credit where credit's due. The Rams are literally they could go in as the 7th seed and run the table. Like
Yeah,
they could
yeah.
absolutely do it. Where teams of old have done it, the Packers, the Steelers, etc. Like they could absolutely run the table purely because Matt Stafford seems to be has rolled the clock back 5-10 years at this point. The way he's dropping bombs. Um, the Niners, I mean, it's going to be tough for them. The rest of their games are all must win. They really got to put the foot down and like make sure they don't miss the dance. Because I think if they get into the playoffs, because I said they have that experience, they can do some damage. Like I know I said they could possibly knock the Lions off, but if they face the Lions in the playoffs and the Lions get out to a 2 touchdown like lead, the 49ers don't have the offensive power to come back against that Lions. Like that's the key to beating the Lions. Don't let them get ahead.
Well, they're currently last in the NFC West, so they're 6-7 behind Cardinals, who are 6-7, Rams 7-6, and then Seahawks 8-5. So it is looking unlikely just because of the amount of teams ahead of them. So
I forgot they were last in the division.
yeah, you
I don't expect them to be last in the division.
You break that down, you're kind of
Yeah.
like they're definitely in a tough spot. So another interesting game there tomorrow night, and I'm just going to touch on kind of the Vikings Bears coming into US Bank Stadium now. Obviously, last week was kind of what a glimpse of, I think, what the Vikings offense and as a total team can look like. I think we really made it kind of clear that we're a team that does need to be taken seriously at this point, and I'll give due to like all the pundits, all the other people out there talking about teams this year and stuff. It's like we haven't looked that impressive, even against the 49ers. Now, in saying that, it was still a tight game up until the end of the third quarter. Like it was 21-21. We go and kick the ball back to the Falcons. We get it knocked out on a fumble recovery and go down and score 3 touchdowns. Like this like I think just that fourth quarter was an accumulation of everything that can go right, and if it does go right, what can happen to you.
And the other fourth quarter for you guys was all of Sam Bradford's
Sam Darnold.
God damn it. Sam Darnold's frustration boiling over.
I'm gonna have a little like counter here. How many episodes we can get through where Twist doesn't say Sam Bradford as Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I think it's
we're at a fat 0 right now.
Yeah. But I think that's his entire frustrations, like of pundits talking absolute shite about how he's squeaked by and he's looked so inconsistent with that, and then he goes and drops 5 touchdowns like in a game, and yeah, 3 of them wait until the fourth quarter, but still, like it was like something awoke in him, and he just said, I'm sick of this, and Ginger Jesus was born, and away he went, and he just balled out. And I know you're like, oh, it's the Bears, but it's a divisional game. Like, that's like me going, oh, it's the Browns. The Browns beat us in Thursday Night Football. Now, we eliminated from the playoffs on Sunday, but still, it's never an easy win when it's a division. But yeah, I think you're right. I think your performance, like the Vikings' performance on Sunday, put the NFC on notice. Like, this is what we can do when we play complete football. You just have to play that complete football for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Not just 1 quarter. If you can play for 4 quarters and you guys win this week against the Bears, which if you don't, what's wrong with you? And if the Lions drop, against the Bills, as you said, you're then tied for the division.
Yeah.
And it could come down to like the final division game, which you kind of really hope it does, because it's literally we won the division by being the best team. But you also kind of don't want that pressure as well. So it's 50-50.
Well, just to that point, I think like down the stretch, like we have an easier, and I think I spoke about it last week, the Vikings have an easier run into the last game of the season. Now, if the 49ers do somehow find themselves in a position where they could make that playoff run, the Lions have to go to Levi Stadium the week before they play the Vikings for the final game of the regular season. So I'm really, really interested at this NFC North. Obviously, it has like a lot of implications for myself, a lot of implications for the Vikings, but just how this is all going to play out is going to be really interesting. I'm really excited, but I'm going to put this to you because it feels like it's all over my Instagram, my TikTok, everything. But if you are the head coach of the Vikings, if you're the general manager of the Vikings, are you giving Sam Darnold a contract?
Whew.
Now I know you've obviously talked about it, like
I had
the
mentioned
salary
it a couple
cap
weeks ago,
and the
yeah,
different contracts that are gonna expire this year. But I will put this out there before you kind of get to your answer. I think that with the way we are playing, if for some absolute magical way we manage to get to a Super Bowl, I think that you can let Harrison Smith go, and I think he'd be happy to go at that point because he's done everything as a player can do at that point, and at that point he's almost a lock for if he's not already a lock for the Hall of Fame at this point. But that would really put the cherry on the cake for him. So that like there's definitely a few of those players. CJ Ham I think is another one in there who he just got our Walter Payton nomination. So there's definitely players there who are kind of coming towards that end, and I think that if you were to get there this year, I just don't see how you don't sign him.
yeah. So that just complicates it in terms of like if you even just getting to a Super Bowl, never mind winning it, just getting to it. At that point, you're like, right, the most important position on the field is quarterback. So if you make it to the playoffs, you're like, can we go? We got JJ McCarthy, but nobody knows what JJ McCarthy is. That's the mystery. That's where I think, as a general manager, you offer Bradford Darnold a contract, and you don't offer him like a huge contract. You offer him
2 years.
you offer him two maximum 3 year contracts. You give him a little bit more than you look at what the salary cap for a QB would be, and you increase it maybe 15%, and give him that. And like
he's gonna be franchised at the end of this year, whether it's us or whether it's another team. Somebody's gonna franchise him. Like they're gonna franchise tag him. Like they have to. Like now, there's so many like little outlets here that
all
could
the
talk about them.
variables. Yeah,
I could talk about them forever, but I think that just the offense, like you're not gonna have Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, Josh Oliver. You're not gonna have all of these receivers to throw to at other franchises around the league. So you're also not going to have the Kevin O'Connell scheme. You're not going to have that everywhere else. So I think is it in his best interest to want to stay as well to keep his career on this trend that he's in.
he's had a revival, and it would be stupid for him to get into a dispute and walk away from it. He's had so much, good vibes and good experiences with the Vikings. I think the Vikings would get away with offering him like a low year, not superstar contract rather than a franchise tag, purely because a lot of teams would be looking at Kirk Cousins, for example. Big contract given, didn't perform. Daniel Jones, big contract given, didn't perform. I'm not saying Sam's like them, but you made a key point. You take him out of Kevin O'Connell's scheme, put him on the Giants, where, for example, he only has neighbours to throw to, rather than Addison and Hawkinson and Jets. He's only got one guy to throw to. Does he revert back to like his old ways where he like was literally just seeing ghosts? Remember that, seeing ghosts. And you've given them all this money. So it's quarterbacks don't like being franchised. No player likes being franchise tag, but you like franchise tag is really really only used for quarterbacks if you don't have the money to give it to them.
Yeah.
So I'd say as the GM, lowball him a little bit, like just to see how he reacts. But I say he's going to find it hard to find a team that's going to be willing to give big bucks because of the recent big busts with other quarterbacks leaving teams. So if you can get him to remain loyal, because he seems like the type of guy who'd be loyal for decent money, not like superstar money, and that would give like you'd even do you could say to him like, let's go like do like a loyalty deal, like we give you lowish money, not superstar money, but allows us to bring Harrison Smith back, and we try to run it back again. A lot of quarterbacks are happy to run it back because quarterbacks care about Lombardis.
It's the most important thing in the end of the day. So
yeah,
definitely an interesting conversation there. Well, before I let you go, Twist, I'm gonna just run through these games, kind of the big highlight games. Let me know your quick thoughts. Just a win loss, nothing more, nothing less. So tomorrow night, 49ers Rams. What are we thinking?
Rams win.
So I'm gonna throw the Chiefs in here just because it's the Chiefs. Chiefs and Browns.
I think Jameis Winston's going to win it.
Big call. Dolphins, Texans.
Texans, they want the division.
That's a big one there. Bucks and Chargers.
Oh, I'm going with Baker Mayfield. He's the harder of the two. He's the tougher of the two.
Bills at Lions.
Oh, it's the Bills.
Eagles, Steelers.
I have to go Steelers.
Seahawks, Packers.
It's going to be the Seahawks.
And then rounding out Monday night, Vikings, Bears.
It's going to be the Vikings.
All right, Twist. Well, appreciate you jumping on here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we will see you guys for week 16 next week. Going to be a big one this weekend, so looking forward to it. Twist, thanks very much.
Here we go.